Welcome back, everybody, to Suns and Shadows cast. This is Jeff. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Kevin. We are covering The Flash. We're not talking about Grant Gustin in angsty CW version, though. We're talking the 90s version. Kevin, what did you think of this one? You have some fond memories of this?
I do. I used to watch this late at night when my dad was on swing shifts. He used to be a police officer. And so it's like I'd try to wake up and stay awake for my dad coming home, and I'd end up watching this, and then I think maybe Arsenio if it was around that time. But I usually try to watch this, and I didn't get to watch it a whole lot, and it was really grainy because like reception sucked out in rural areas.
Oh, yeah.
But what I got to see was so cool looking back then.
Yeah, this show had a definite style to it. Even when I watched it on like cable, it was actually on like CBS for me. And from what I remember, it had a roughness to it. So it wasn't exactly smooth like other shows were, but also was incorporating a lot of that 90s CGI sort of deal. And so it didn't exactly translate well to today.
No, not so much, but I've seen much worse as far as effects. The blue screen effects in this were a lot better than what they were doing in, say, like Deep Rising. But they weren't using as expensive toys with this. So I don't know. The graininess, I think, came from the style, like you were saying. What they were trying to do was have it be a period piece, almost like Batman the Animated Series. It was set in 1990, but all of a sudden it's like it's very detective noir and jazzy. You almost expect it to be in black and white half the time.
Oh, I know. I'm actually surprised they didn't do a little more black and white, but it wasn't really necessary or called for, but I thought the aesthetics actually were very enjoyable. My only kind of comments is, less could have been more with some of the speeding up of the Flash scenes where I know they tried to keep showing him in like motion, whereas they could have just done a quick cut and just suddenly everything was clean. You didn't actually need to see him like running through the apartment or beating up a bad guy. You could have just had a, quick cutting with the punches and whatever he was doing. So, but that's hindsight. That's years of practice on top of that. Up until this point, I don't think anybody had really tried to adapt Flash live action on television or movie.
Not that I can recall anyway.
Not off my memory. This is actually kind of at the cusp of just after Batman 89 and just before Batman the Animated Series. I really don't remember any other like superhero shows at this particular moment in time. So that's why I'm thinking like with Flash, they are at least trying to do a little something here.
Yeah, as far as actual shows go, no, I think this was the only one serious. Every once in a while, we'd still get like a made for TV movie of the Incredible Hulk, but not past this point, I don't think.
Was Incredible Hulk a little more of the 80s, or is that towards the end of the 80s and early 90s? I don't remember.
I believe the TV movies were mid to late 80s.
Oh, okay. That makes sense because I remember that a little bit younger.
Yeah, the first one with Daredevil had Street Hawk as Daredevil.
That's right.
And the other one had gosh, I can't think of his name. The gentleman that plays Little John in Robin Hood Men in Tights. He plays Thor, and he was really cool in it.
Oh, I kind of remember that now. Oh my god.
Yeah, like they messed up the whole Thor and Donald Blake sort of thing, but otherwise it was fine.
Well, then we could also talk about the Captain America movies. No, nobody wants to talk about that. All right, moving back on to Flash.
Yeah, because at least you see Flash in his goddamn costume.
Oh dear God, yeah, we don't need to get onto that. But if you want to hear us talk about that, you're gonna have to get on a Patreon and gonna have to pay to make us watch that.
I don't even know if I have that. I've got the Red Brown movie, but that's
I have the 2-pack of the DVDs.
Yeah.
I was that came into our possession. It'll probably stay there because I don't think I could pay anybody to take that off of me.
My grandma had such a crush on that man.
Well, I can believe it. I mean, yeah, we don't have to get too much into that, but they did try. They just didn't try hard enough.
True. True. But circling all the way back to this and the aesthetics, they had a man with a muscular build playing a guy that's typically drawn as like the skinnier dude and faster. Like,
Yeah, pretty lanky and slim.
exactly, yeah. And John Wesley Shipp, he had more of a Superman physique to him, which is not bad.
Oh, I
But
like the look. He looked like a goddamn beast in that outfit of his.
yeah, he did, didn't he? Like, he looked cool. It looked like, say, like the Phantom's costume, but a little bit red, more scarlet.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you, what did you think of the overall costume for Flash? Because in my opinion, yeah, they did some tricks with airbrushing and sculpting of the suit around him. They made him probably look way more muscular than he really was, but he had that kind of like presence to him. Like, no, dude was probably jacked under all the baggy 90s clothing he was wearing half the time. But then when he got into this, I don't know. I'm like looking at my DVD cover here and I'm like, yeah, they might have done some shading and some sculpting, but man, he looks like a goddamn beast in this fucking suit. I swear to God, every time I see him on screen in this outfit, I don't think cheese. I think not bad. That's pretty damn good. If anything, I wish they could have played with the glove a little bit. It looked like he was literally wearing like this winter glove on his hand when he got an up close view of it. They could have made it a little bit more of like a leather glove, but that probably would have contrasted too much. But overall, I really like the outfit and I like what they did with that.
This is my favorite Flash outfit as far as any live action suit. It's looks the most comic accurate. The Ezra Miller suits look nothing the way they're supposed to, really.
They're okay, but even Grant Gustin, which seems to be kind of more of what I'm talking about, what I would like, if they
Yeah.
could do that with this suit, maybe, where you just kind of tighten up the details a little bit. You don't need to completely overhaul it and make it all leather. You don't need that.
Yeah, no, and that's what they did with Grant's suit, and that's fine.
Right. It worked for him.
He pretty much embodied Barry Allen, which was great because it didn't matter what he fucking wore. You believed that he was that character for the most part. But well, it was also a lot more modern. So they had what was it? It was a fire suit or suit made for firemen to
I
reduce
so.
heat, something like that.
Yeah.
But it just kind of worked in favor that like it was able to hold up to his speeds or what have you. Whereas in this, he can't run without the suit on, without like getting completely naked because his fucking clothes tear apart.
Although there are different points during the first half of the season where he does run as Flash, just not very far. So he gets some speed while he's wearing, clothes, but he tends to jump in and out of that suit within a split second.
Yeah. And see, well, one of the things they do with this show is they kind of slow Barry down. And I guess they have to make it believable for TV or so you could see him, like you said.
Right.
I don't know. In a way, it lessens, and in a way, it enhances. I just lost it again. I just zero pointed. We've strayed way too far from Flash, and I'm trying to get back to it. Okay,
No, we're still talking about Flash.
No. I know. I went from Grant Gustin's suit to this suit. Like,
Well, you're trying to make sure that like this Flash with Shipp here is still visible, so you're constantly seeing him in motion instead of, oh, hey, they're just doing quick little camera tricks because they need to save a buck.
They did do that a lot with the new series, didn't they?
Yeah. And whatever they needed to fix, otherwise they did a lot more CGI work.
I didn't dislike that show. The only thing, if they would have, I know this is going to go against what you just said. If they would have had a suit like John's in the new series, made it look more exactly like the Flash, give him yellow boots and a ring, it would have been goddamn perfect. Or even John having yellow boots in a ring would have been damn perfect.
Yeah, there was some definite like aspects they could have gotten more into, hit up more of the details of like the comics and how things developed in there. But even in like the newer movie, And yeah, we know we're going to bounce back and forth between these other adaptations because it's relevant. This was the first Flash, and it still has an influence on the more modern Flashes you're seeing in live action now. But even Ezra Miller's Flash, they did have the ring, and the suit, comes out of the ring, and you got to change into it super quick. Now, what I don't remember is about the boots. I wasn't paying too much attention to that when I saw that in the theaters, but it, like, I go back to it, they could have done a little bit better with the detail work. That would have been super dope, but it's not something I was exactly crying for. It's just now watching with a critical eye these days, and also trying to remember, what did I not remember from when I first saw this so many years ago.
Well, I thought one of the characters or one of the villains in the first half was Tig from Sons of Anarchy, but it is very much not. The guy that placed the microchip in Barry's brain and was controlling him like a digital marionette.
Wirehead or whatever his name was.
Yeah, I thought that's who I thought he was, but no, it's very much not.
It did look like him, though. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and maybe I'm just trying to remember when he had the glasses on, and that's just the nose looked very similar. I don't know, but yeah, I was wrong on that one, and I don't think there was anything else so much that I remembered wrong. Like, it's maybe the only thing that I kind of didn't see as much was not the detectives, the sergeant, no, the Lieutenant Garfield being sincere with the CSI guys. He's very stereotypical, being that hard ass chief, but then later on, towards like the last few episodes we watched, between say like 8 and 11, he was a lot more, I don't want to say interactive with the CSI guys, but he was very much more involved with them and treated them better and looked out for them more.
Well, they had earned his respect a bit, I would say. They went through enough, and he's like, okay, you guys are actually stepping up and participating and actually contributing in a way that I would prefer you to. Yet still, he started to treat them with a little more respect as police officers, because like Barry's dad, like, you're just a different kind of a police officer.
let's get that out of the way so we don't have to talk about that trite shit anymore.
The Allen family.
Yeah, like every episode that includes Barry's family lags, and it's I don't want to say that it's bad, but it lags so slow that it takes days, hours to fucking watch an hour to an hour and a half long episode. This is probably the worst pilot I have ever seen. It's one of my favorite shows, and it's got the worst pilot ever, because like he doesn't really put on the suit until like what, the last 10 minutes of the 90-minute show.
I believe that is correct.
Like, you don't really see him in the full regalia, for lack of a better term, and it's just like a searchlight going over him really fast. I mean, it was a little bit cooler than that, but it took a long time to get to that. And it's all very repetitive, as far as his family doesn't like him as much as the brother because he was the smart one and not a real cop. It's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, for what the pilot was trying to do, they could have shorted up quite a bit. They could have taken like a half an hour out of there, or just made it one episode. If you wanted to split it up into two and break it up, you could have done that too. I don't know. It meandered way too much for me in my rewatch of this. It took me multiple times because I kept falling asleep while watching it. And it's not because I was bored. It was dragging so hard. The pacing was completely off in the very first episode. The story is decent. So it's like you clearly see, like, hey, there's something here, or I'd totally check out. But that also lead to a question for me to you is, do you feel like the pilot hurt this show more than it helped it in getting it started? Is that maybe what kind of led to this not getting any more seasons or anything like that?
It might have. I hope not. I don't remember.
You really
exactly
only get
long.
one first impression with people.
That's true. And I don't remember if they showed this first on air? I think they did, because I remember not liking it back then too.
I want to say so, but
I don't know. It got better as it went along, but they had the actors playing his parents for 2 days, I think, or two shows. So
okay.
those got done back to back, and you don't see them at all beyond that point. Iris is only in the pilot episode, and she was such an uninteresting character that they just wrote her off because Tina had all the personality and charisma with John. So, or Barry. So it's like that was different at first, but then you're kind of like, oh, that's right, I like this better. Like Iris was not cool in that show.
Least interesting character ever in a TV show was Iris West. I couldn't stand her. I couldn't wait to see her gone from the show. And I generally don't have a problem with characters like that. And it's just she didn't fit. She didn't have the chemistry with the lead, let alone on page. Like, they wrote horrible dialogue for the two of them. I mean, the most comical thing they shared between each other, which actually felt kind of I could buy, is, oh, that was only 3 minutes long. Boy, that was over quick. Hey, I'll be right back. I got another round two for you, lady. It's like, oh, using your powers for good, Barry.
Burning through the sheets.
Hey, if you're wearing protection, though, that's burning rubber.
No kidding. What's that smell? There's tires burning
And you're done again.
again. But yeah, I mean, once you get away from Iris, you've got no chance of their villainous kids or whatever they are coming back. There's no Flashpoint here, so none of that happens.
Thank
Which
God.
I don't know. Maybe if Flashpoint happened, if that origin would have been consistent with this show, might have been a little bit more interesting, because you wouldn't see his dad that much at all in general.
Yeah.
I don't know. It got better, a lot better, when it had less family drama and more rogue drama and more Starlab drama. They didn't have so much of the actual rogues, Flash's rogue gallery in this, outside of the Trickster and maybe Captain Cold, I think.
Yeah, he shows up in the second half. I do remember that.
And I can't remember, maybe Mirror Master. But anyway, they're like dime store versions, because it's 1990. They didn't have a budget whatsoever, or so much. They still did really well for not having that budget, but the rogues were a lot more fun. I had tons more fun watching the comic pulpy type than the family drama.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the series seemed to exceed, is in that, and less on the family aspect. And I'm glad they found that niche, because by the end of the first 11 episodes, it felt like they were starting to click and they really had something going. Even though I wasn't really the biggest fan of the jazz episode. I don't know. I think I've seen that style episode since I was like 6 years old, in just about every TV show that tries to do something mysterious and noirish.
Well, shit, they did it on Constantine too, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, with the record that had the devil's voice on it.
Yep.
That the the jazz episode in this, one of my notes is, this is potentially, or this could be potentially, extremely insensitive. And it was. Like, very
Different time
racist.
frame.
It wasn't as bad as the Latino fucking episode. That with Clifton Collins Jr., like, he looked fly, but they had him playing like the worst type of fucking 1930s zoot suit caricature that you could possibly fucking imagine.
Oh my God. Seeing the mishmash of the 30s, the 50s, and the 90s was just like, oh my God, this does not feel right.
You know what did look really good though with that aesthetic though, between the merging of the three generations, or all those different generations, was the murals.
Oh yeah, that was beautiful. I did like that.
I really liked the murals. Really out of place in the police department, but
Right.
or at least the science lab, which was
Yeah.
a loft in the police department, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. It's like, are you guys working out of a warehouse? What are you doing here?
And then the clock at Star Labs. Star Labs is completely different in this than it is in the new show. Like Tina's not the only person that works there, except for she is. Like there's
But
only
she
one
isn't at the
episode.
same time, but she really is.
Yeah, she's in charge, but she's not. She has more power than the person that's in charge. That got really kind of weird in that episode.
That was
In the
very
middleman.
confusing. And also, one thing I kept thinking about while watching this entire first half was Star Labs clearly needs a security force.
Well, they had one, but he got killed.
Yeah, the one. They couldn't find a fill in, or they couldn't hire some, like, I don't know, they couldn't hire the ghost and have him manage their security staff at that point if he's retired from being a hero himself. Or
Murphy and
Nightshade, I'm sorry.
oh, Nightshade was cool.
Yep, that's what yeah, sorry for the mix up, yo. But like Nightshade, if he was retiring from the end of that episode, put him in charge of this, the Starlab security and increase things around there. That way you keep that fantastic actor on staff. And there's still something for Barry he can do as Flash with somebody who knows that side of the life. Because
Yeah,
that had a
right.
great dynamic to it. I'm like, yo, that's what I want. More of that, please.
Yeah, like they had the perfect actor playing Nightshade. It was the perfect story, so good that it fucking it got recycled. It was
But
just it
also
was
changed around. It wasn't a complete rip.
no, it wasn't a complete rip. But it was very much Nightshade is very much the Gray Ghost, which is fine. It looked almost exactly like him. The mask he had made it was a little crossoverish with Sandman,
I
but
thought with
still very
Hellboy.
Abe Sapiens thing.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that. But shit.
Did it get you?
Yeah, you got me again. Nightshade was perfect. He was engaging. They had the chemistry together between that
Exactly.
mentor aspect, and it was really cool. And really, only one person definitely knows outside of Tina that Barry is the Flash, and that was the fucking blind guy that's selling newspapers.
Oh god, yeah. That was
And
funny.
that was cool. Like, you can't, like, how could you expect the guy not to know it wasn't Barry?
Who's probably not gonna say anything anyway.
Yeah. And if the guy, hadn't been wearing his glasses, I'm sure you would have seen him kind of wink.
That
Um,
would have been pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, because it's like he knew it was the Flash, but of course, yeah, it's Barry that I'm talking to. He's here all the time, which is one of the funny things about this show. It's like in every episode where it's like a different focus, group, ethnicity, focal point. I don't know. Like Barry and Julio always had some like roots with that fucking ethnicity group or whatever.
Right.
Like uh Barry's all into jazz. Like it was Julio's friend, but Barry's like the super jazz nerd, and it's like you've never heard him listen to jazz before.
Yeah, there's some detail work they could have spruced up on, like, hey, we have the script for jazz around episode 11. Maybe about episode 8, we want to have him playing some jazz in the background. Just make it some generic jazzy thing. We'll make it work.
Oh no, did you hear what he was playing? Every time he was playing the saxophone, he was playing the same song.
Same sad song. And I love how they gave a guy on death row a saxophone to mess with for
Yes.
like a week.
Yeah. You can't fucking kill yourself with that by any means, or anyone else.
Yeah, I was surprised that like a lot of the other inmates weren't like screaming like, kill me already. I can't
Ah,
stand it anymore. My ears are bleeding. That would have been so
Shenandoah.
freaking funny. Where they all started killing themselves. They're all on death row. And they're like, this guy's working for the state. He's offing us already, and we got more time on our sentence.
I got it extended on appeal. But no, he was playing Amazing Grace every time he was playing. It's like, oh, public market.
I'm like, if I hear this goddamn song again for like a 40th time, I'm gonna scream. And it's
I
not
mean,
that the episode was horrible. I wasn't like the biggest fan of it.
no, the episode was pretty fucking horrible. It had amazing actors in it, and it was still
Exactly.
pretty horrible. Like the bad guy played Martin's best friend in the old Martin Lawrence show that he was on. I can't remember his name,
Martin.
but he was well, yeah. But the neighbor's friend or
Oh,
Martin's
yeah.
anyway. He plays the supposed killer's brother, who is actually the killer, who didn't really kill anybody, more or less.
Because nobody was dead
Yeah, like the guy's wife got amnesia, and for how many years he's kept her cooped up in a room.
and medicated.
Oh, and then the
I'm
best
like,
part
this is
is
like something out of a soap opera, not a
yes.
superhero.
And then he's recording her singing, and it automatically clicked. My God, they're making Tupac songs. And, like found songs that were never released. It's like, no, you're making Tupac songs.
Yep, and they're gonna be on CD and vinyl before you know it.
That's right. That is right.
And cassette tape too.
Cassette tape. The garage sessions.
Hey, if you haven't heard, the cassette tape's making a comeback.
Is it really?
A little bit, yeah, actually.
Ugh.
Hey, I don't make this. I ain't making this shit up. I wouldn't be surprised if 8-Track made a comeback at this point.
Oh my God.
How's that for an idea? I grew up with some of that, so I totally am like, I never liked that kind of stuff. Yeah, I like my VCR and VHS tapes, but that's one thing. Like the music tapes, those tiny little cassettes, those fucker things broke like all the time or snapped. The tape would snap all the time.
Oh, that was pretty great too on this episode where there was the tape evidence proving that Linda
Oh,
was still alive.
God, that pissed me off. I'm like, yo, all you
You're
got to
the
do
Flash.
is reel it back up, untie the knots, reel it. Like, oh, I'm handing you this. I'm like, if you handed that to me, I could have that spooled back up probably in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, like before there were actual cassette tapes, they didn't come fucking like that. You did have to wrap them like that or spool them.
Yeah, because I've had tapes like the actual housing cracked because you stepped on it or something stupid happened. It fell and whatever.
Yeah, it got crushed.
You just take it apart, you reel it back up. If you got another crappy cassette tape, you're like, fuck this music. You just swap the cases and I don't know. I was just like, you can't salvage that. You got to run it through a digitizer. Like, what are you doing in this? Like, has nobody listened to music on a cassette tape before?
A lot of people haven't, and I thought it was fucking.
I mean, for the period of the show in the 90s, it's like anybody watching this show is probably like, that's stupid.
What's funny is they show a UMD at one point, don't they? One of the
I
small
think so.
CDs.
Yeah.
Yeah, which you didn't really see those on the market until 10 years later, maybe.
Right.
And then Star Labs was equipped with some very fancy computers. One of them even had a floppy disk drive for one of the 3.5 floppies.
I know.
That was some fancy
Shame
shit back then.
Well, just to even mention it, we're talking some tech here. I love the episode where the guy had the power glove. Just say it. Wirehead.
Yeah.
When he threw that on, I just started thinking of, Nightmare on Elm Street and Robert Englund and as Freddy Krueger going, great graphics. Now you're playing with power. I just started thinking like Nightmare on Elm Street when I saw that.
You forgot the power glove. Yeah, it really was cool. It was corny as shit, and that's exactly what I called it in my notes too. It was like, hey,
Yeah.
he's got the power glove. And Yeah, to your point, that is the only thing I could think of. Like the Power Glove didn't work, but it was cool in two movies. Nightmare at Elm Street 6
Yep.
and The Wizard, which made it seem like it worked, but it really didn't.
The Wizard was just a glorified commercial for it anyway.
Yeah, it was like getting you really pumped up for Mario 3, which was great. It was Mario 3 was fantastic. But yes, it's a hard watch for me now as a parent of kids that have autism because they didn't know a whole lot about it back then and it wasn't really represented that well. The parents that knew nothing about games, Bo Bridges was okay in that, but the little girl, the streetwise little girl that fucking had all the trucker friends,
Yep.
where what was the not PI? Yeah, I guess he was a private investigator, was trying to get the little boy, and the little girl like just instantly screams, "He touched my breast!"
It's almost like when Jonathan Brandis showed up in this in an early episode and was acting like this big crime lord little punk kid. I was just stealing a teddy bear from my sister. I'm like, oh my God.
That was hard to watch on several different levels.
Yeah, I agree.
I miss Jonathan Brandis. Like I liked him.
I had no problem with him, but
yeah, like I liked him as Bastion and Neverending Story too. Sequest was all right. I didn't watch it a whole lot, but shit, anything with Roy Scheider on it, it's cool.
Ladybugs with Rodney Dangerfield. Come on.
Was he in that?
Yep, that's where he dressed up as a girl to play soccer.
Ah, alrighty then. That works.
Goofy. This is during that time when, hey, let's put a guy in a in a dress or whatever, and yeah.
Back in the Tootsie days. Well,
Mrs. Doubtfire days.
Yeah. No, it's insensitive. But no, I don't know what he was going through as far as the choices that he made. I know Slayman Fry did a documentary about him, or she helped give interviews because they were really tight together. And I think he would have done really, really well. Like if you watch it, the remake isn't as good because the kid that plays Billy isn't as good as Jonathan was. So it's like he was a good actor and he probably would have gone really, really far.
Yeah.
Despite the hokiness of this episode.
That's true.
This episode was hard to
the
watch.
best of my knowledge, he never comes back in the rest of the show, even though he's basically going to be living in the same freaking city, working with the vet. If you remember that at all. Because at the end of that episode, he's like, okay, I guess we'll stay and not go to New York. Too bad they didn't say the word Gotham instead of New York, but whatever.
Gotham. I don't know if it was back then, like just in general always, or what, but Warner Brothers, they've always been very anal retentive about letting anything Batman get out. And I'm surprised that they let a Batman cameo in this series. It was cute as fuck when he and Earl are walking past the theater and it's showing a double feature of Superman and Batman.
And Batman, yep.
And you're like, night of cool ass Marthas.
Was it Superman versus Batman or Batman versus Superman? Superman and Batman.
Yeah. And see, that would have been a great Justice League or World's Finest movie is, Chris Reeves, Michael Keaton, John Wesley Shipp, get whoever you want to play Green Lantern.
You don't even need Green Lantern.
No, I know, but Hal and John Stewart are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of Guy Gardner at all, but I like John Stewart and Hal.
See, during this time, I wonder if you still could have gotten like Linda Carter for Wonder Woman.
That would have been cool as hell. Like, I don't know about athleticism, but Linda Carter's always been beautiful. Like, I've never seen her not be beautiful.
She could have acted the hell out of that role as opposed to somebody else.
Because, I mean, like, she really owned that. Gal Gadot watched, I think, almost everything she did just to see what Wonder Woman would do, because she kind of wrote the book.
I
more or
like
less.
Gal. She's fine, but she kind of phoned it in a little bit towards the end.
That I think was. I don't think that was Patty Jenkins' fault. I think that was the studio's fault.
I blame them all.
The
They all share
first movie was
responsibility.
cool.
Oh yeah, I'm only talking about like 84
Yeah, like 84 had
and
some neat
Fury of the Gods.
Which one is that?
Shazam, Fury of the Gods, the Shazam
Oh,
sequel.
yeah, I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah.
It's on my to-do list. I heard she's in it, but
Yep.
sorry everyone at home that hasn't watched it either.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiled.
You consider yourself spoiled.
What was the other show? Sins of the no, that was Sins of the Father was the other one that had Barry's dad. Where is it? The one that had the Angel of Death or the Avenging Angel of Death, whose name really was Angel. Child's Play was the Jonathan Brandis one.
Oh, that was episode 8.
Shroud of Death.
Yeah, because I wrote down, I love this opening death scene, Death by Marquis.
Yeah, that was cool with the precision explosives. But I wrote something down for that episode. We were talking about it a little bit earlier before. Garfield, he's trying to tell the CSIs or get information from them, and Barry and Julio are telling Lieutenant Garfield what the next steps should be. And I'm thinking to myself, he's the seasoned detective. Why are the CSI guys telling him what to do? And instead of just letting that roll, they actually had fucking Garfield turn and like kind of snap at them both about knowing his fucking job.
Right.
And then still wound up bonding with them by the end of the episode.
Yeah, I really liked that episode overall in general because I wrote down a few different things, especially like it's nice to see him having a relationship with somebody outside the department and good natured like teasing between coworkers and friends. Like, I don't know, there was a part where, he said something to Barry about like honey, and he's like, honeymoon. Like they kept teasing him because he proposed to his girlfriend and she said yes. And, just that good natured teasing was like, hey, here we go. Like we got a rhythm. We got a good flow of all the characters. Even the two bumbling idiot cops in this were fun to watch. Initially, I'm like, these guys are a couple of idiots. Hopefully they don't linger too long on this show. But by this point in the show, I'm like, hey, these guys are pretty fun. But like, I just wrote down, like Julio was starting to get wise in this episode too. Like, are we finally going to get to a point where Julio knows that Barry is Flash? Because he's starting to pick up on it. And I don't know, they ended it with basically Barry pulling a two places at once routine to Julio. And I'm like, well, come the fuck on. But, for shows like back then, like, patience is king. But that's also, if you're going to play this routine of will they or won't they ever know who he really is, like shows back then would string that along to the very, very end. And some shows and even like sitcoms would play, will these two ever get married? Or, Lois and Superman ever know that he's really Clark Kent? Because not too long after this, we had Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher doing Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. And it wasn't until season 3 when she's like, who's asking me to marry him, Clark or Superman? And you're like, that took 2 fucking seasons. Come on.
Oh.
Boom.
I got nothing on that one. That's that wasn't good Superman. You watched it because there was really nothing else.
Bruce was in it.
Terry Hatcher. Was he in that one too?
Yep, Bruce was in it too. So was Ted.
Oh shit. I can't remember his name. The guy that plays Perry in that series. I really liked him. He was also the dad and son-in-law, I think.
Yeah.
He was really great. I liked him as Perry White.
That's my favorite Perry White. Sorry, Lawrence.
Yeah, maybe. Between him and the guy that played Perry in the 50s with George Reeves.
Ooh,
The one
good
who coined the
point.
Great Caesar's Ghost.
Yep.
Huh. But again, yeah, Fish was great as Perry. Like totally not giving a shit about anything other than the story.
Yeah, right.
In other news, water wet. I'm pausing because now I'm kind of like, what was my point about that again? Oh, we were going back to the Shroud of Death
Yep.
and
With
Garfield and
Angel.
yes. I wasn't sure. I mean, you could tell that the killer was a female. You could tell by the stature.
Like almost right away with the eyes, in my opinion.
Yes. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, the only person that we've seen on here that's a new female character is Mavis, which was Garfield's fiance. And so I'm writing down in my notes, is Mavis the angel of death? And as soon as I'm done writing that, she gets shot in the heart. I'm like, oh shit.
Shot in the back. It didn't actually make it to her heart. She got shot in the back. But when she got shot, I'm like, oh, bitch is dead. Oh, so there is there's the like, this is for real with this show. And they actually saved her life at the end. So, and
Yeah.
she marries him. Spoiler alert.
That was kind of nice. Like
Yeah, it was nice.
he has his moment where he finally kind of nuts up and tells Tina, I don't want you to go because I'd miss you too much.
Yep.
Because she was talking about taking that job in California.
I don't think she was ever going to take it. I think she was trying to get an answer out of Barry one way or the other about a feeling.
Yeah. And you have this for the entire season. Well, I guess you could say the entire series. And so it's like growing up watching this almost romance to the point where it's like you don't want his wife on the show anymore. You want Tina. So say, God, what was it, season 2 or 3 of the Grant Gustin series, where they bring Dr. Tina McGee onto the show, and John plays Barry's dad in this season or in this series.
Yes.
And they start to flirt with one another. And by the end of the 3rd season, I don't want to say they hook up, but like they have a moment of sincerity, more or less, for lack of a better term.
Oh, okay.
And you're sitting there like, oh, finally, and then he dies. So you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, I never made it all the way through season 3, so spoiler alert for me.
I'm so sorry, but it's like they get you really high and then drop you hard as fuck to where you're like, no.
I mean, I'm not knocking the Flash show too hard because I did really enjoy like the first 2 seasons. It's just once they hit season 3, I'm like, what are we doing here?
Well, it's like you said, and Iris was very much the same way. The new Iris, which it's just the way it has to go because of TV shows, like you said. Lana Lang in Smallville was the most annoying motherfucker on like ever fucking written as far as like a side character on a show. She gave Clark so much shit about not telling her his secret. Bitch, look up the fucking word secret in the dictionary and read it out loud. Like, if I fucking tell you, it's not a secret no more.
And then you're now part of the circle of what could get hurt for knowing this fucking secret.
Yeah, so it's... And then she got fucking jealous of Chloe for knowing. Like, Chloe just figured it out because he stopped a car from fucking landing on her or something like that. But the type of character like Lana is, where it spurns that fucking animosity between the two, because you won't be honest with me. Quit fucking nagging. Like, seriously, that's what you're fucking doing, is you're nagging.
Yeah, at least we don't get that too much in this show where it feels like, they're nagging him about the secret or anything. It's just, they're starting to pick up a little bit about could he not be? And Julio at this point in the show is the only one who's really like, hey, something's going on here. But even then, he still doesn't quite buy it fully. It's like something's going on here. And if you're truly Flash, maybe you could be in 2 places at once like that.
Yeah, like at the end of, well, when Garfield and Mavis drive away and he sees Flash run off and Barry's right behind him again suddenly, it's like I couldn't tell if he was like disappointed because, oh darn, I guess Barry's not the Flash, or if he was kind of like disappointed that he wasn't getting an honest answer and he still had his suspicions. I like to think he still had his suspicions.
Oh, I do too.
But I don't know. And at this point, I don't remember if they keep going on with it in the show. I think they do. But he saw him using the Speed Force quite a few times.
Yeah, and even after that particular episode, Julio notices a thing or two here and there about like, I'm still watching you. It's like the subtle looks are like, I'm still watching you. So I get a kick out of that anyway.
The constant staring.
Yeah, it'd be funny if he did like the two fingers to the eyes and just did this to Barry like a few times. Like, I really like their dynamic. They have a really good friendship going on.
Yes, and I was always sad that like you never see Julio again in like the comics or the new series. They had Cisco kind of in place of Julio, which Cisco Ramon was cool as hell on the show.
Oh, I love the three core that new Barry secret in the new show with Grant.
Yeah, like Dr. Wells.
Yes.
And Cisco and Caitlin.
Caitlin, that's who I was thinking of, yeah. And once Wells was Reverse Flash, so it was like
he was somebody different every episode or every season.
Or Yellow Flash. Is it Yellow or Reverse Flash?
Reverse
Eobard Thawne.
Yeah, he was Reverse Flash in the first season.
That was funny. Every season he would be a different Flash version.
He was pretty great. Like sometimes he was a con man.
Yeah.
He just like, and he always owned that role. And I think had this season or this show gotten that second season, they would have been able to do more cool shit like that. I think they could have brought in more characters. They would have done more stuff with Bellows and Murphy. Because like you said, Bellows and Murphy, when they show up and they're bumbly, yes and that, but they're that comic relief and they're the really good cops. Like they don't have like weird squeaking cartoon sounds when they're like having their moment of comedy.
Yeah, they're not like ineffective. They actually do know what they're doing. They just sometimes get caught like wrapped up in everything more than anything. Like one of my favorite interactions between the two is like when Ghost is taking over the place and taking over the city, doing his Max Headroom version of or RoboCop, the live action show where he becomes the city. Like,
yeah.
While they were doing that, those two are walking into the precinct and they're basically talking about like, hey, remember this time this, remember this time that, and one of them says, hey, remember the time with the Corelli twins? Weren't they guys? Yeah, well, it was in an elevator. Oh, it was that time in the elevator with the Corelli twins. Weren't they boys? Yeah, it was the greatest poker game night of my life. $2,600. Suckers.
Murphy's the best. I fucking love him. Like, there's going to be an episode where he's just going to be wearing some really snazzy looking clothes.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, those guys, I really like them. They don't get too slapsticky because the show doesn't need a whole lot of comedy relief. It's more fun than it is suspenseful.
Yeah.
So I guess it doesn't necessarily need that. But Ghost, I'm glad you brought that up because we've talked about him before. That's the actor. I can't remember his name. He is the young priest, Father Brophy from Repossessed.
Yep.
And I was like, oh shit. Because I recognized him. I just couldn't think of who it was. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, duh. But they took a lot of, again, like you said, Max Headroom. They made this really neat story. And then they do the very same thing again years later in Batman Arkham Asylum, where you see this mannequin of Joker with the TV on top of its head and Joker's talking on the TV. Turns out it's actually a TV sitting on Joker's head and he shoots through it.
Yep.
And that was really cool in this. And it wasn't too campy. And had Shocker already come out yet with wanting to like upload to the TV streams?
I'm not sure. That was what, 91 for Shocker?
I think so, yes. That sounds about right.
I'll look it up.
Well, hell, uploading to the TV waves, that was the fucking plot to Repossess too, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Shocker was 89, actually.
Really?
So that was actually before this.
Fair enough. Well, again, it's like you said, there's something always borrows from something else.
Yeah.
That's just inevitable at this point. And most things that borrow from something else is usually borrowing from the Divine Comedy or something old like that just gets retold or reshaped. How many times have you seen Romeo and Juliet before? It's like Romeo and Juliet, West Side Story, Underworld. It just grows into different, cooler things.
Romeo and Juliet.
No, it doesn't go back. It doesn't go back. It turns into vampires and werewolves. That's what it just gets perfected there.
Trying to get my trauma line in there.
Your trauma line. No, but anyway, I liked Ghost. I didn't remember liking him as much as I did this time. I'm going to go out there and say, so far in this half of the series, he's my favorite villain that we've seen so far.
I would agree, because he actually gave Flash a different sort of feel, like not his typical enemy that he was hunting down, who are like more of these typical criminals. Like, oh, I'm a killer. Oh no, I rob things. Oh no, I'm just trying to do this, or I'm trying to do that. Finally, you got somebody who's got some real brains to him, and a different set of circumstances surrounding him. This guy actually felt like a villain because he actually had a good story behind it too, and he had his his lady friend that he loved. And I really like the fact that they really focused on that as a core balance to his character. It felt like, dude, this guy should be a fucking Batman villain, or, he clearly there's something good in this guy, or he'd be like treating her like the Joker treats Harley, like, yeah, screw off. No, he's like, no, I'm trying to figure out a way to bring us both here, and you should have stuck with me. I love you. And he's like, she's telling him, I'm so old and this, that. And he's like, I don't care. I love you. And I'm like, wow, that's actually nice to see a little bit of heart in a bad guy. It's like, man,
because he was very sincere with that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember this shit. I remember this episode, but I don't remember like that. I mean, it's been so long until I got this DVD set, so
yeah, it's like, and you felt bad for her because like she didn't expect dude to come back into her life at all.
She thought he was dead for years.
Yeah, although they knew he had a cryogenic tank and didn't stop to fucking check it. So.
She didn't think it worked. Yeah. Oh, and where was it? Oh, it was just in a different room of the facility, a secret room. And Nightshade's just like, God damn it. I should have done a better job looking around.
Yeah, like, why didn't I fucking look there? Which, ironically enough, he freezes himself in 1950, what, 1950, something like that.
5, yeah.
Sets the freeze timer to 1999, and then it somehow randomly wakes up in 1990 instead.
Well, it clicks to 90 before it starts to take effect in there. So I think something happened with the clock.
Oh, but yeah, because it's very much Dr. Evil. Like the ghost is very much the joke about Dr. Evil, to the point of when he takes the city hostage again, it's for $1 million. And all I could hear was fucking number 2 going, that's actually not a lot of money anymore, sir.
Well, when he took it over the second time in the modern times, he actually said $1 billion. It was not
did
1
he?
million. Yep, it was 1 billion this time.
Oh, lame.
I kind of remember the scene because I wrote down, he said, I did ask, the last time I tried this, I asked for 1 million. Now it's going to be 100-fold. Now I want 1 billion. And so it's like, oh, dude, welcome to the 90s. You're aiming high.
Kinda. He would have loved the 80s. Oh my God. Speaking of which, dude gets so excited because there's like what, 148 channels on cable.
Yeah, something like that.
And he's like, think of what I could do with 148 channels. I'm like, dog, think what you could do with my passwords.
Yeah.
He would have loved streaming.
Oh my God, right? Welcome to the wide world of the internet, my friend.
Oh shit. But the poor lady, like you're right. He was very sincere with her, and she was very much tired. Like you almost expected her to be like, you know that song Copacabana? That's been me for the last 40 years. Like she was an alcoholic. She had nothing but being that lounge singer anymore. And like she was tired. She was tired of everything. And I almost wish like she would have gotten together with Nightshade because she didn't want to be the fucking villain's girl anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was just, I don't know, that whole episode was fantastic. I absolutely adored that episode. It's probably one of my favorite episodes of the first half so far.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Prior to that, it would have been Angel. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, that one. The one that was basically Mask of the Phantasm. And then this one comes on immediately next. I'm like, well, fuck, that was even better. Unfortunately, the jazz episode follows that.
that was a downer. Yeah.
Good. You're like, okay, like part of it was okay. Or was it the jazz or was it the Invisible Man? It was the Invisible Man.
That was that lockdown episode.
Yeah, I mean he wasn't bad. He was kind of like the Scarecrow wanting to poison the reservoir.
Yeah.
That was kind of a classic trope. And then they
I
kind
like
of
that
bring
one.
in the biotoxins and stuff. That was
Yeah.
entertaining.
Yes.
Just them being stuck in there like they're stuck in the hive from Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Kind of sort of. It didn't have the Red Queen, and I guess that kind of made it better.
That's
You're going to
true.
die
They did
down here.
also didn't have the laser grid traps and all that stuff, so or zombies.
That would have been cool though.
Yeah, that would have been pretty dope.
I love that the virus makes them sick eventually.
Yeah, I have 4 hours before I start to get sick, and then another 4 hours on top of that before I really get sick, and another 4 hours later. I might be dead, but I might be just getting sicker.
Yeah, and then the feds willing to like gamble they're gonna blow them up or not.
Hey, we just want that invisibility cloak, and we want to, weaponize that toxin.
That was some great stuff, though. I mean, two different scenes with Barry doing something similar. Is the first one, this one, where he runs out before the fucking explosion, or he gets them out before the explosion like
Yep.
gets all the way out. And then he'd done that before with Garfield. Garfield was going after Angel,
Yep.
winds up in a trap, steps on a pressure plate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
What's
it was
called
just
a pressure plate, but it just looks like some, I don't know, turntable stand for a mannequin. I don't know.
It was a mannequin Lazy Susan that he
Yeah.
steps on in the middle of the fucking room. There's nothing covering it.
Like you don't
It's
see
not
this clear, big, white little circular domey thing, bro. Like, come on,
with the
man.
light beaconing down on it. And he's like, oh shit, I can't move. So then Flash steps on it and tells him to leave. And I'm like, oh shit, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna, phase through the wall? No, Barry's not there yet in this series.
He does get there though, which is super funny. He's like, huh, I went through a wall. I think my molecules were vibrating as fast as and I'm like, oh my god, I just watched this out of the movie with Ezra.
I'm still waiting to pirate that. I'm not paying to see it. And it's a part of it's because I made such a big stink about not seeing it or not paying to see it. So it's like put your money where your mouth is or lack thereof.
It'll be on HBO probably by August as well.
Oh, I'm sure. I want to see Michael Keaton as Batman, and Warner Brothers knows that. That's why they put him in there, and they canceled Batgirl. Because people could have said, well, I don't want to support Ezra Miller. I'll just watch him in Batgirl. It was a big, big tax write-off for everything. Like the tax write-off canceling Batgirl, that was one thing. To let the Ezra Miller movie come out and let it flop the way it did. Oh, dude, Zaslav was sitting there going, and now it's springtime for Hitler.
Well, there is another difference between the two. Is Batgirl was only intended for streaming, so that's a different sort of financial deal. If it's intended for theatrical, there's contracts with everybody. Everybody must get paid. The movie must go to theaters. You cannot cancel a theatrical movie like they did with Batgirl. And also, that Flash movie was announced 12 years ago, literally before the TV show was announced was going into production. And now the show ended, and now the movie just came out, which has been reshot like 3 times. It's probably had the script rewritten like a dozen times. So there's been production problems for years. This movie was not going to make the money at all, but you get a different write-off for releasing it in the theaters and being like, hey, we lost money, so part of the problem is, never should have gone with Ezra, but nope. We'll talk about that another time. We're focusing on the good Flashes in the DCU, and this is definitely one of them, in my opinion. I absolutely love the casting. Like, by comparison, this is one of the best casting choices they ever did for a DC project, outside of like some of the Batman castings.
I would say so, yeah.
I don't count Superman. That's a little different. So
Smallville, I count. It made a lot of good choices, and then it made a couple lame choices, odd choices, questionable choices. Instead of having Barry or Wally as the Flash, they brought in Impulse as the Flash. So it's like,
okay. Oh, I never caught that.
Okay. Yeah, he came back. He's in 2 episodes, one just him, and then they all come back for a JLA episode in like season 5, I think. And it wasn't bad. Just wasn't as cool. And again, they dime stored everything. So it's like not everything was as hip as it could have been. But for the most part, all the casting choices were really good for that show. But the last thing I'll say about the casting for this show is I was more than happy, like ecstatic and thrilled that after they killed John Wesley Shipp in the last series, that they brought him back again as Jay Garrick, the original Flash. That was cool as hell.
Nice.
Like, it was sentimental to me.
Good.
But I think they killed him again too. I don't know. Like, I wish they'd stop killing him.
Oh, they like to kill everybody in that show.
Yeah, and then bring them back because there's all that time travel.
Yep. And multiple universes, all that jazz. Yep.
It's late at night. I might be able to check the pirate sites if they're open, see if it's playing yet. But I think Evil Dead Rise might be in my immediate future.
Well, I'm surprised you weren't checking out Twitter, because the full movie was apparently on Twitter for 8 hours, like a few days ago, before it got pulled. Got like what, almost over 2 million? Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I do not regret seeing it in the theater. That was super cool in my book, but
sure.
To be honest, I was way more excited to check out this show until I saw the pilot.
So the only thing I'd really like to say for people that listen is I'm not trying to be, and we're not trying to be complete dicks laughing at Warner Brothers for having a movie that failed. There's a ton of people that helped make this movie that weren't Ezra Miller, and they worked really hard and deserve the praise and deserve the paycheck. Unfortunately,
and I like the movie,
and Jeff likes the movie too. Unfortunately, they just had the wrong pony. They backed the wrong pony for the race. I know they don't like to mix the cinema with TV contracts, but they ought to have gone with Grant Gustin. They went with the completely wrong actor, and that bit them in the butt.
Pretty much. That's why we've had years of problems. I mean, even I like the movie. I didn't say I liked Ezra as Flash. I did not. They could have cast somebody else. The movie would have been better. He cannot carry a movie as a lead by himself. It's never going to happen again. He's never going to play the Flash again. It's just, it's over. This is the end of it. And they should not put out Aquaman, but they're gonna. And we're also going to get Blue Beetle in the theater because they upgraded that from streaming. And that's probably not going to do very well either.
I saw the poster for that the other night when I had to go see Paw Patrol with my kids.
Yeah. I mean, I'll watch both of them, but from what people are saying about Aquaman, like that's going to make Flash look like a success. Apparently, the next Aquaman is not good, but hey, dude's shirtless. People are going to pay to see that.
I like Jason Momoa as an actor. I think he's cool. Or as a person, I don't know so much as an actor, but as a person, I think he's cool. I didn't hate Aquaman as much as Trace and Frank did. It's a bro movie, very much was. The second one, I know that there was a lot of people bitching and moaning about Amber Heard still being in it. And from what I understand, she's been pretty much edited almost all the way out of the film. Hopefully that's true. But their sequels have not been promising thus far.
No.
And their casting choices. Again, Ezra Miller and Jesse Eisenberg were not the actors to play the roles that they were selected for.
Yeah, I did not like. I like Jesse Eisenberg, so do not get me wrong. But being cast as Lex was stupid.
Kevin Spacey was a lot cooler of Lex Luthor.
I didn't like him either.
No, but he was better.
Not by much.
In my eyes, the best Lex Luthor was Michael Rosenbaum. He was brilliant. He was snake-like and driven as fuck, and killed his dad, who was even worse.
Lionel Luthor, played by the wonderful John Glover.
God bless that man. They were fantastic and evil. Gene Hackman.
Yeah, he was fine.
Nothing can top Gene Hackman in what he did, I don't think. That was a league of its own.
Yeah, he was fine.
That Lex, Otis, and Miss Tessmacher were the shiznit.
Yeah, there we go.
Especially Miss Tessmacher.
Okay, one of my last questions for you, Kevin. Hey, what'd you think of the score in this bad boy? We had Danny Elfman doing the theme, and we had Shirley Walker doing the actual music of the show, who are known for their work on a lot of DC projects and many more through the years. Like eventually we're going to be doing Space Above and Beyond. Shirley Walker did all the music for that.
She did the music for the animated series too, didn't she?
Yes, she did. And I believe, I don't know about Mask of Phantasm, but I believe she was on the Sub-Zero one.
I believe she was, because my understanding of it goes this way, and I may be completely wrong. Danny Elfman wrote the theme that plays at the beginning and the end of the show. Everything that happens in between, like the Joker's theme song, she wrote all that.
Right.
So the vast majority of it, she didn't get credit for, but she did do.
Yeah, she is listed in the credits. It's just like, maybe y'all need to like really break it down on who did really what.
Yeah, her Joker scores were the fucking amazeballs to me. Just as good as Danny's.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, nothing beats Danny Elfman for me. I'm sorry. I can't let that. Nothing beats it.
You definitely get that vibe out of the opening theme of this. Is like, man, it feels like it's trying to be a Batman score. And it's not Batman, but I can also look at that and be like, the Arrowverse started with Green Arrow, which was basically Batman, because they gave Oliver the exact same kind of rogue gallery that Batman had, and the same sort of style character. Spoiled little rich kid, lost parents, yada yada.
Yeah, because again, Warner Brothers didn't want Batman on TV
at that time.
Yeah, they did it twice, trying to make Ollie be Batman, and that was again Smallville, and then the last Arrow. I was going to say the last series, but no, Arrow. Yep. But we talked a bit about it earlier in the week. The score at the time between, say, like Batman, this Army of Darkness, and then Batman Returns, it was this wonderful little like 2-year, 3-year part where Danny Elfman had a lot of similar themes and scores and beats, and it's almost hard to tell which is which, but you could tell really close between Flash and Army of Darkness, but those two are the closest together, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, And Army of Darkness gets a little bit more towards Batman Returns, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were a lot alike, very much like John Williams has a lot of songs or a lot of themes that all sound familiar. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're not.
Interchangeable.
Yes.
It's like Nickelback.
Like, would you really get upset if the Superman theme song came on while, fucking Indiana Jones is doing some cool shit? Might be weird at first, but no, you'd probably be like, hey, fuck yeah.
Hey, that might spruce up Indy 5.
Boom.
Boom.
I don't want to see that. I don't.
You're not missing anything. Kevin,
I'm sorry.
You got anything else?
No.
I think we've done a pretty good job. I mean, unless you want to talk about any like bad episodes, but that's basically the pilot and the jazz episode, because anything else for me is pretty okay to pretty cool.
The last thing I'll tell you is coming up next is James Jesse, and he's going to blow your fucking mind.
Oh, and the Rogue Gallery, I know like the second half is widely considered to be like the best half of this Flash show, and we got a lot more iconic people showing up too, like young Jedi. We're about to get all tricky up in here.
He's like Jesse James, but twisted and backwards.
Because I remember watching that episode in the newer Flash show with Grant Gustin, and he showed up and he played like dad to a young trickster, and he's just like hanging out with John Wesley Shipp, and they're both like, oh, goddamn kids.
Oh,
seeing
so
the two fun
of them
to see
together
that
again was fantastic.
I know. I'm a big Mark Hamill guy, so that's super cool for me.
Yeah. So that's really what I'm excited about the most for probably tomorrow.
Yeah, right. Me too.
All right, man. Well, that's all I have for this half.
Yep. Late decision. We decided to split this in half, so you're going to get an extra episode from us in between. So you'll be catching that one probably very soon, sooner than usual. Back in a flash.